making in plants. So here all living beings need air, water and food to live. So plants as well as human beings as well as animals, they all depend on air, water and food in order to survive. So food gives us energy to work. So food is the one thing which is going to provide us energy so that we can perform certain work. So plants also need energy as we all need energy. So plants also depend on energy for doing the work. So how do plants get the energy they need? So first question here arises that how do these plants get the energy? Second thing is how do they get the food? Then how they are going to get the food so that they can obtain the energy out of this. Lastly, have you ever seen a plant eating the food? So I am sure that no, this is not, because you might have not seen any plant eating the food, because the plants make their own food. So the plants are the only organism that can make their own food, and that energy, this is the energy how the plant is going to obtain. So in this chapter basically we are going to take a look on how the plants make the food. So that is the name of the chapter, that how the plants are making the food by themselves. So here what plants do to make the food. So here why do plants have green color leaves? So this might have occurred in your mind that how the plants leaves generally appear green in color. So they have green leaves because the leaves contain a substance which is called as chlorophyll. The plants are having green leaves because they are having chlorophyll in that. So because of this chlorophyll, this is going to give the green color to the leaves, and only green leaves can make the food. So you must remember, so those plants which are having green leaves, only that can make the food, because chlorophyll is very important role. It has very important role to make the food. So the process by which plants are going to make the food is called as photosynthesis. So let us discuss what is photosynthesis. So a plant gets the water and mineral from the soil and carbon dioxide from the air. So this is a pictorial diagram here. You must understand the different parts of the plant first of all. So the part which is below the surface of the earth is called as root system, and it includes the root. So the main function of the root here, student, is to absorb water and mineral from the soil. And the part which is above the surface of the soil, this includes the shoot system, which includes the stems, the leaf, the flower part. Okay, so here you can see most of the plants are having green color leaf. Why they are green? Because of the presence of chlorophyll. So here water and minerals are absorbed from the soil with the help of the root, and carbon dioxide is obtained from the air. So the leaf will absorb this carbon dioxide from the surrounding air. The energy which is needed to make the food is taken from the sunlight. So sunlight is going to provide us the light energy to the plant so that they can make the food. So the chlorophyll which is present in the leaf trap the sunlight. So how the plant is obtaining the sunlight? Because of the chlorophyll which is present in the leaf, this sunlight is trapped in the leaf part. So in the presence of sunlight, green leaves make the food from water, mineral and carbon dioxide. CO2 is the chemical formula for carbon dioxide. So because of the presence of water, mineral and carbon dioxide and sunlight, the plants are going to prepare their own food. And what is that food that is prepared? That food which is this food is a kind of simple sugar that is called as glucose. So this is being produced by the plant as food. So when the leaves make the food, they gives out oxygen. So when the plants are going to make the food, they are going to produce oxygen also. So these are the two products which are formed by photosynthesis. So simple sugar, that is glucose, and the one which is utilized by us human is oxygen. This is also produced by the plant and released in the environment. So this process of making food is called as photosynthesis. Understood? Next is photosynthesis is a process through which the plant uses water, carbon dioxide to create their food, growth and release out excess amount of oxygen into the air. So this is the process by which the plants are going to prepare their food by using carbon dioxide, water, sunlight and chlorophyll is also required, and they are going to produce glucose and release out oxygen. So the photosynthesis uses sunlight, carbon dioxide and water to produce oxygen, glucose and water. Then photo means light and synthesis means putting together. So this is how you can differentiate between, you can divide the photosynthesis in two parts, where photo means light and synthesis means putting together. So you can write this in an equation form. How? You can write down here as carbon dioxide and water. So carbon dioxide is obtained from the air and water is absorbed from the soil part, and in the chlorophyll is present in the leaf part, and the light energy is obtained from the sunlight. And what is the end product of photosynthesis? Glucose and oxygen is produced. Next is, that is why the green plants, the green leaves are also called as the food factories in the kitchen of the plant, because they make the food. Because they are making the food, that is why the green leaves are called as food factory and kitchen of the plant. The extra glucose which is not utilized by the plant is converted into starch and gets stored in different parts of the plant. So the extra glucose which is not utilized by the plants is going to be stored in the form of starch in various parts of the plant. So this we eat usually different parts of the plants. So here we usually eat those parts of the plant that have food stored into them. So given below are certain examples of such plants. As you eat the mango, so the mango is your fruit part. Okay. The next one, if you eat cauliflower, that cauliflower is the flower part which has stored food into that. Next is the one when we eat carrots. So these carrots are the roots part, and in this food is being stored. The next is your potatoes. So potatoes are the underground stem. The cabbage that we eat is generally the leaves part. The next is your pomegranate, that is the seed part which we eat, and these are the various parts of the plant in which the food is stored in the form of starch. Next is an experiment you can do to test for the presence of starch. For that, what you can do, you take starch and dissolve it in hot water and then cool that solution properly. After that, from that starch solution, you have to take few drops and put that in a dish. And after that, what you are going to do, you have to add the few drops of iodine solution to that dish. Then what you are going to observe, what you are going to see, that the solution turns blue-black. While adding the iodine solution onto this starch, this few drops of starch on the dish, it is going to turn the solution into blue-black color. Why this happens? This happens because the iodine changes the color of the starch to blue-black when it comes in contact with the starch. So this iodine is going to convert this starch solution into blue-black. Okay, this shows the presence. The turning of the color into blue-black indicates the presence of starch. Next is, there are special ways of getting the food. There are other plants in which they use different methods to obtain the food. We are going to discuss about examples here, Indian pipe and your coral roots. The next is your insectivorous plant. So in that insectivorous plant, we are going to understand about your pitcher plant and Venus flytrap. So first of all, let's discuss about the Indian pipe and coral root. So these plants are the non-green plants. Okay, as they are non-green plants, that means, so here the Indian pipe and the coral root, as we have discussed, these are the non-green plants. Okay, so they do not have chlorophyll. Why they are non-green? Because they are having absence of chlorophyll, and if they are not having chlorophyll, so they cannot make their own food. So they get their food from dead and decaying plants and animals. So they are going to obtain the food from where? They are going to obtain the food from dead and decaying plants and animals. So here you can see, this is a picture of an Indian pipe. You can see it is here of white color, and next is, you can see here, this is a coral root, and this is also non-green plants. Okay, this is one specific example. You have to remember the name of the plant. The next is your insectivorous plant. So insectivorous plant, as the name suggests, here they feed on the insect. So here some soil are poor in mineral, especially nitrogen. So there are certain type of soil which are very poor in certain minerals, such as they are lacking nitrogen. So the plants of these area feed on the insect to get the mineral they need. So here these plants are in this area where they are growing, where there is lack of nitrogen in the soil, they will feed on the insect to get that mineral. So these plants which feed on the insect are insectivorous plants, and such plants are generally green in color. So these plants are though green in color, and they can prepare their own food by using the water, carbon dioxide and light, like photosynthesis. But the one why they feed on the insect is because they are lacking the mineral. The soil is lacking the mineral, especially nitrogen. So in order to obtain nitrogen, these are going to feed on the insect. So let us understand first one, that is your pitcher plant. So here the leaf of the pitcher plant are modified into a pitcher which contains a lid. So here you can see a diagram. So this is a pitcher plant. The leaf part of this is modified into a pitcher, and the apex of the leaf is going to form a lid, or it is going to form a lid so that it can close the pitcher. It is used for opening and closing the pitcher. The pitcher has hair inside it. So inside this pitcher you can find hairs. So what happens when an insect sits on the pitcher of the plant, it closes its lid. So when by mistake if an insect is sitting here, so what will happen? The lid of this will get closed, okay? And the insect slips inside and gets trapped in the hair because it has hairs inside this. So that insect will get trapped inside the pitcher. So as you can see here in the diagram, this lizard has fallen down into the pitcher plant and gets trapped here. What will happen? How these plants are going to obtain nutrient, this mineral from the insect, because inside the pitcher the digestive juice are released. So once the insect gets trapped inside this, the digestive juices are released, and that will help the plant to get digest the insect. So these digestive juice are released inside the pitcher so that the plant can easily digest that insect. So this is the first one, that is your pitcher plant. The next one is your Venus flytrap. So here you can see the leaves of this plant are modified into two lobes that join at the center. So as you can see here in the diagram, these are the two lobes which are joined in the center part, and the edge are having very large sharp spines. So here you can see there are large spines which are found on the edges, okay, and together they form a trap on the inner surface of the leaf. So these two are going to combine together and they are going to form a trap. The plant secretes a sweet juice that attract the insect. So how the insects are being attracted here? Because these plants are going to secrete the sweet juice, the sweet fluid, and that is how the insects are going to be attracted here. So when an insect lands on the leaf, it touches the hair. So inside this, as you can see here, there are hair present on the inner lobe. So whenever an insect sits here, it will touch the hair part, and the lobes close to trap the insect inside. So as you can see here, so as the insect sits here, the lobes are going to close itself, and this is how the insect gets trapped here. The spines do not allow the insect to escape. So here, because these spines are going to get collected here and they are going to close this lobe, this is how you can see a fly is being trapped. So the cells of the leaf surface then secrete the digestive juice. So the cells of these leaf surface are going to release the digestive juice that are going to help the plant to digest the insect. Because of this digestive juice, the plants are going to digest the insect, and the trap then reopens. So once the digestion part is over, the plant will absorb all the nutrient, and later on this trap is again open for attracting the another insect. Next is another plant which we have to understand is your Custard or your dodler plant, which is commonly known as Amarvale. So this Amarvale is a non-green plant. Here also it has yellow thread-like stem that help it to climb over the stem and branches of other plants. So this plant is also a non-green plant, that it will feed on other plant. That is how they are going to obtain the food. They are having very thin stems, and this is going to climb on the other plants' branches and stem. So at various places, it is going to develop a root that will pierce the host body to draw the water from it, draw the food from it. So here what will happen? It will form the root part, and it will go attach and pierce the other host plant body, and from that it will draw the food from it. So such plants are called as the parasitic plants. Next is how animals obtain the food. So as we have discussed about the plants, now we are going to understand how animals are going to obtain the food. So unlike plants, the animal cannot make their own food. So plants are the one which can make their own food, but animals directly or indirectly depend on the plant. So they will obtain the food from plants or animal sources. So animals depend on either the plant or as well as the other animal sources for the food. So based on the type of the food they eat, the animals can be classified into three categories: herbivores, carnivores and omnivores. So let us discuss. The first one is your herbivores. So herbivores are those animal students that eat only plants or plant products. That is, they can eat grasses, leaves and grains. So that is why they are called as herbivore or herbivorous animals. The various examples of herbivorous animals are your cow, deer, your goat and rabbit. So these are the first category, that is herbivore. The next one is your carnivorous animals. So carnivorous animals are the ones which eat the flesh. That is why they are called as carnivore or carnivorous animals. The example of these are your lion, your tiger, leopard, fox, frog and wolves. Okay, so these are basic examples. You must remember the examples. The next one is omnivores. So those animals which feed on both plant as well as animal, they are called as omnivore or omnivorous animal. The examples are your crow, dogs and sparrows. So these are considered as omnivores because they feed on both plant as well as animals. The next topic here that we have to understand is there are certain microorganisms, students, which includes bacteria and fungi. These are going to obtain their food from dead and decaying organisms. These are going to obtain the food from dead and decaying organisms, and they are going to break down these complex substances into the simpler substances, and that is why they are considered as cleaning agent of the environment, because this dead and decaying organism are waste, and these are going to digest the food from this and obtain food from this dead and decaying organism. So that is why there is bacteria and these fungi are called as the cleaning agent of the environment. The next thing is which you have to understand is your food chain. So food chain, we have just learned that the food prepared by the green plant is eaten by the herbivores, who is in turn eaten by the carnivores. So as I have discussed that the plants are the only organism which can prepare their own food. So the plant which is going to prepare the food, that plant is going to be eaten by a herbivore. Herbivore feed on the plant part, and there are certain animals which feeds on herbivores. Okay, so those are called as carnivore. So this is the way how the food is going to transfer, the process of transfer of energy in the form of food through a series of organisms is called as food chain. So this is how the food chain is developed. How? Let us understand with the help of example. So in case of the food chain found in the forest, what will happen? The grass. So as you know, the grass are the food producer. These are the plant sources, and plants are the only one which can produce the food. So the food is produced by the grass. This grass is eaten by a deer. So deer is a herbivore. It eats the grass. Then this deer is being eaten by as a food by the lion. So lion is a carnivore. So this is how the food chain developed. The food is produced by a plant, okay, that is eaten by a herbivore. A herbivore is eaten by any of the carnivores. So this is how the food chain travels. The next is the food chain in grassland. So here you can see the grasses are going to produce the food. The grass is eaten by a grasshopper. The grasshopper is eaten by a frog. The frog is eaten by a snake, and a snake is eaten by a hawk. So this is how the energy is transferred from one trophic level to the another, and this forms a food chain. Next is we have to discuss about food web. So here, as you know, many animals eat more than one kind of food. So animals are there mostly we eat different type of food. Similarly, animals also they eat more than one kind of the food. So different kinds of linked food chains exist in nature. So there is never happens in nature that one food chain is acting in food chain is occurring in or operate in isolation. Okay, there is no single food chain which is operating in isolation. These food chain are linked with one another. So the network of interconnected food chain is called as your food web. So interconnection of different food chain is going to lead to the food web, development of food web. So here simple food web of the grassland is there. So we have to discuss first of all the grass, that is your producer. So from grasses, the grass is eaten by a grasshopper. This grasshopper can be directly eaten by a hawk. This can happen. Then if this grass is eaten by a grasshopper, then chances are there this grasshopper can be eaten by a lizard, and this lizard is ultimately eaten eaten by a hog. This is another food chain. Next is the thing is, this grass can be eaten by a rabbit, and this rabbit is directly eaten by a hog. This is the third food chain. The fourth one, you can see this grass can be eaten by a rabbit, by a mouse, and this mouse can be eaten by a snake, and then finally the snake can be eaten by a hog. This is the next food chain. And the last one you can see here, this grass can be eaten by mouse, and this mouse can be directly eaten by a hog. So how there is the n number of food chain are interconnected. So there are 5 different food chain in this food web. So these interconnected food chain is going to make the food web. Okay. So but you have to remember the producer will be the plant only. Okay. Next is interdependence between plant and animal. How plant and animal are interdependent. So here plants and animals depend on each other for survival. So we depend on plants and animals, as well as plant and animal are interdependent because of their survival. So plants give food and oxygen to the animals. So as I've discussed, plants are going to make the food, that is by the process of photosynthesis. In this, the plants are going to produce food as well as the oxygen is produced, which is given to the animals. And animals breathe out carbon dioxide. We breathe out carbon dioxide. Similarly, animals also take in oxygen and release out carbon dioxide. So this is the carbon dioxide that is utilized by the plant to make their food. By which process? By photosynthesis. So here there is an interdependency. Okay, that is plant is giving them animals giving them food and oxygen, and animals are giving them carbon dioxide. So this is how the plants and animals depend on each other and live together. The next and last topic that we have to discuss is balance in nature. So as you can see, this is a weighing machine which were used earlier. So here on one side you can see animals and including humans, and on the other side there is plants. So here you can see the animals are going to give carbon dioxide to the plants for making the food, and the plants are going to give food and oxygen to the animals for the survival. So there is a complete balance here. So a balance between the number of plants and the number of animals is necessary in nature. So there must be a balance. This needle should be at balance. What will happen, student, if there is an increase in number of animals? So what will happen? Imagine if this portion of the balance increases, that is number of animal increases, then it will be difficult for the plant to supply enough food and oxygen to all the animals. So if this part increases, then the plant will have the difficulty to provide them food and oxygen to all the animals and plants. And similarly, if there is an increase in number of plants, so if this part increases, okay, if the number of plants increases, then it will become difficult for the animal to supply enough carbon dioxide for the plant for their food making process. So if animal increases, the plant will have difficulty to supply food and oxygen, and if plants increases, it will be difficult for the animals to provide them carbon dioxide to make the food by process of photosynthesis. So that to maintain this balance, both plant and animal need to be protected. So we must maintain this balance in the nature. Let's move on to the exercise part, students. So here first multiple choice question is, which of the following is called kitchen of the plant? So kitchen of the plant where food is being prepared. So which part of the plant prepare the food? The leaves, the flowers, or the stem? So leaves. So first answer is A, leaves. Next is color of the starch when it comes in contact with iodine. So when iodine is added to starch solution, it turns the color of the starch into blue-black color. Okay. The next is fill in the blanks. Extra glucose changes into dash and is stored in the plant. So extra glucose changes into starch and it is stored in various part of the plant. Next is the leaves of the plant make the food by the process of photosynthesis. Remember this term, very important for the whole chapter, that is plant prepare the food in the leaves with the help of the process called as photosynthesis. Next is circle the odd one out. Here lion, crow, tiger and wolf. So as you can see, crow is an omnivorous, whereas lion, tigers and wolf are carnivorous, which feeds on the flesh. Next is neem, rose plant, pitcher plant and banyan tree. So here except pitcher plant is insectivorous plant. So that is why it is odd one out. Moving on to the section B of exercise. First multiple choice question. A non-green plant that gets its food from dead and decaying organism. Which is that non-green plant? Pitcher plant, Venus flytrap or Indian pipe? So short answer question, student. Which part is called as the kitchen of the plant? The leaves are called as the kitchen of the plant because it prepares the food for the plant. Next is name two insectivorous plant. The two insectivorous plant, remember the examples here, Venus flytrap and the pitcher plant. Next is your short answer question. First of all, what is a food web? Give an example. The network of interconnected food chain is called as food web. Okay, as I told you, no single food chain operates in isolation. So there is a network of interconnected food chain that forms a food web. Example is your food web of grassland. Next is what happens when there is an increase in number of animals. So recently we have studied that in the slide. What will happen if the number of animals increases? So when there is an increase in the number of animals, it becomes difficult for the plants to supply enough food and oxygen to all the animals. Okay. Lastly, your long answer question. First of all, what is photosynthesis? Explain the process. So in the presence of sunlight, the green leaves make the food from what all things are required? Water, mineral and carbon dioxide. The process by which the green plant make their food is called as photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means putting together. And during this process, the leaves gives out oxygen and the food that is produced is simple sugar, that is glucose. The last question we have to understand here, what is food chain, and give an example of food chain of forest or in grassland. So here, the process of transfer of energy in the form of food through a series of organisms is called as food chain. So here the energy is transferred in what form? In the form of food from one trophic level to another trophic level. Example, here we have to discuss the food chain in the forest ecosystem. So here you can see the plants, the green plants which produce the food are called as producers. From this they are eaten by a herbivore, that is your deer, and this deer is eaten by a tiger which is a carnivore. So this is how the energy is transferred from one trophic level to another. This is the complete food chain here. Producers, then herbivores, and last one is carnivores. Okay. So by this, students, we have completed this chapter. Revise a complete exercise and remember the process of photosynthesis very well, and remember even the examples also. Okay, for the insectivorous plants and various non-green plants and the way in which they obtain the food. So hope to see you in my next video. Till then, take care. Thank you.